You're watching Canadian Muslim News on Muslim Network TV. From Toronto, Ontario, I'm Samia Sayed. Welcome to the show. Now, coming up, we have an interview with Brother Mohamed KAMEL over the Canadian Border Services Agency's discrimination against Egyptian refugees. But first, let's go over the headlines. About 10,000 Muslims died in Ukraine conflict, media says. Justice for All Canada's first fundraiser raises money for human rights. Indigenous delegation seeking apology from Pope amid historic visit. Police investigating fire in Quebec Mosque that left $50,000 in damages. And now the details. The Manitoba Islamic Association and the Muslim Council of Ukraine conducted a virtual discussion Sunday to discuss how Muslims are impacted from the war in Ukraine. President of the Muslim Council of Ukraine, Sheikh Arifov, said that most of the 1.5 million Muslims living in Ukraine were in regions targeted by Russian forces since the war commenced last month. According to CBC, Sheikh Arifov said that around 10,000 Muslims have died, some fighting for the Ukrainian army. Mosques in western Ukraine have been converted to shelters. Due to their close ties with Russia, Arifov said that some Islamic countries' response is weak and lukewarm. Justice for All Canada, a leading nonprofit human rights and advocacy organization, held its first fundraiser in Toronto, Ontario last night. The event raised awareness and fundraised for anti-genocide prevention work of persecuted Muslim and Indigenous minorities. It drew a packed audience of community leaders and activists from across Canada. Awards were given to community advocates and allies for their work on Uyghur, Indian, Rohingya, Kashmiri, Indigenous, and global human rights. Ally of Justice Awards went to Conservative MP Michael D. Chong, Liberal MP Salma Zahid, and the Reverend Christopher White for their global human rights work. The first round of meetings with Pope Francis and members of an Indigenous delegation from Canada began today at the Vatican. National Inuit leader Natan Obid, who has suffered the effects of intergenerational trauma from residential schools, had a private meeting with the Pope to seek an apology as a result of the Church's involvement in residential schools. The Pope will meet with Métis, Inuit, and First Nations delegates separately. The Pope is expected to respond formally in front of a joint audience on Friday. An apology from the Pope is one of the Truth and Reconciliation's call to action. Métis delegates insist that this must be done in Canada. Police are investigating after an overnight fire broke out at the Islamic Community Center in Brossard, Quebec on Sunday. Security cameras did not detect anyone inside the building when the fire started around 1 a.m. near an electrical socket in the stairwell of the mosque. Lingale Fire Department Division Chief Daniel Dolores says that the flame took around 30 minutes to extinguish and will result in about $50,000 in damages. No injuries have been reported, but the investigation is ongoing after firefighters were unable to find a cause. That's it for the news. Now, today's interview topic has been quite long in the making. It was recently highlighted how the Canadian Border Services Agency, or CBSA, is refusing refugee claims and labeling Egyptian refugees that have lived in Canada for several years now as a security threat because of their supposed ties to the Muslim Brotherhood. But to speak to us about this today is Brother Mohamed KAMEL, the Public Relations Coordinator with the Egyptian-Canadian Coalition for Democracy. Welcome, Brother Mohamed. It's great to have you on our show today.
Thank you, and welcome to you and our listener as well.
Now, Brother Mohamed, I just gave a very short overview of what is happening, but can you add some more details on the situation right now?
Yeah, unfortunately, and actually it's only on Vancouver office where Canadian Service Border, as you mentioned on the introduction, labeled a few of Muslim. There's 3 cases or 4 cases right now. One of them is include the whole family as threat to the Canadian security, and they would like them to be removed from Canadian soil. While they are refugees from Egypt, based on what they are facing in Egypt from several threats, starting with bringing cases to the court without juridical due process, sentencing people to 15, 25, and to death even in Egypt without any due diligence or any due process on the juridical side. And those people they were supporter of the democracy in Egypt before the coup that took place on 2013. So since then, several, and I can say several here, there are more than hundreds of Egyptians being admitted and accepted as a refugee in Canada, but only at this office, those cases has been deemed inadmissible because of what they believe it is threat to security with no basis at all.
Mm-hmm. And I believe they said threat to security as well as some hints to them being terrorist organizations.
That is the reason they put that they are linked to Muslim Brotherhood, which is the officer there considered terrorist organization, which is Canada does not include it and not listed as terrorist organization. Not only Canada, not any Western country did not list Muslim Brotherhood as a terrorist organization, and they are not, by definition of terrorism that being used today. They did not, and they are not, and maybe I can say maybe close to 100,000 of them are in the prison now in Egypt between Muslim Brotherhood and supporter and democratic supported as well. It's not only because of Muslim Brotherhood. So the tie to Muslim Brotherhood never considered a tie to terrorist organization in Canada before, and not in the state, not in Europe.
Mm-hmm. And so this is just one Vancouver office or one Vancouver officer?
One Vancouver officer who really going in this direction, unfortunately, yes.
And how long has this been happening for?
It's now more than 2 years. Those cases are taking place. It started with one case, but this first case, I think, has been settled after. And now we have 4 cases, actually. One of them is a full family. The person who had met, his wife, and the children as well, which is considered something strange when we know what's going on in Egypt. And everywhere the Canadian Service Border across Canada know that, and they admit them as a refugee and accepted, and they are very, a peaceful resident of Canada, and they live their life normally in Canada without any threat, and there is any one indication that any of them could be a threat, not even those families. And we know what the women could be faced, children would be faced in Egypt, in prison, and we know that, and it's been listed on the Canadian Service Border, all the violence that those people facing on the prison in Egypt. And there's no due process at all. And Canada did condemn that before, and the Human Rights Council of the United Nations condemned that several times every year. I can say that in this review of the last review of Egypt was last year, and they condemned them, and they give them a list of 170 items considered violation of human rights. So
and you just said there's around 2 to 3 cases that you're seeing right now. Are there any more that that are just not being spoken about, or they're just not being as posted or reported on?
We are not aware of others, if there is, but the only one we are aware, the only cases, not only one, but the only cases we are aware of are the one coming from this specific officer in BC, and it being brought to the minister and to the Canadian Service Border Director as well, this case. And we asked, and we're still asking for investigating this officer and this office, because we consider it is very clear Islamophobic. It is nothing else but that, because he considered a group of Muslim group as terrorists, while the Canadian government do not list them, and the other border service did not consider this at all as a threat or as a terrorist group, or the people admit for refugee as a threat to Canadian.
And now this is quite a number of Muslim organizations who are making this appeal. And have you gotten any response yet?
I can't say that we have a formal response, but I can say that we knew that there is a discussion taking place within the minister office about the issue. We can't know, actually, not a matter we can say, because we don't know what level of discussion and what level of action is expecting. If they are going through investigation, we don't know. We don't know exactly the detail of it. The only thing we would like to know, because those family is not a matter because of Islamophobic only, but because of family life is not clear at all what those people will happen to them. Are we going to be deported from Canada to Egypt to face maybe the threat or at least violence in prison, or between rape, between torture, between long sentence for no reason? That's something we need to know, and the family need to know.
Mhm. And you said that this has been going on for 2 years now. So I want to ask, how urgent is this appeal then? If it's been going on for 2 years, why is it only coming up recently that we've heard about it in the last few months?
Because there's already been cases being put for inadmissibility. And when they put a case for inadmissibility and it go to court, and if the court accept this, that means those people might be under threat of removal from the Canadian soil. And that's why we need the minister and the director of Canadian Service Border to intervene before this happened. Because when it's happened, it's became a very complicated issue to stop it, if we are able to stop it at that point.
Mm-hmm. Now, I understand you've organized quite a number of protests all across Canada, actually, regarding this topic. Can you tell us a little bit about them?
We did a few protests in between Montreal, Vancouver, Toronto. We did not do in Ottawa. At that time, there was a convoy, the trucker convoy there, so we didn't do anything in Ottawa. We are doing again this week, in this coming week, several protests. The date is not confirmed yet, but several protests will take place on the three cities and in Ottawa this time. We are organizing a press conference going to be on the Parliament Hill next week. Not this week, next week. It will be on the Parliament Hill, a press conference. We are calling, that will be participating from several organizations, of human rights organizations, Muslim and non-Muslim, calling on the government to act and to really meet its obligation to defend human rights and defend the refugees, and at the same time, fight against Islamophobia.
Mm-hmm. And from what I hear, it sounds like you're doing quite a lot. And so I want to ask, how are the Egyptian families themselves involved in this effort?
For sure, the family themselves, it's their case. That's no doubt about this. They spoke several times. We have some report has been issued in the Toronto Star. There is a discussion took place with several MPs in Vancouver. The family met several MPs to try to explain to them the situation, the file. Unfortunately, even when people met with the minister and the minister office, Minister of Public Safety and the Minister Office, even the minister was not aware 100% of the case. So the people met with him. Several of the family member and people who fighting their cause met with the minister and the Minister Office to explain to them the case. And when we met, not me personally, but when our group met with them, they found that they don't know the case. They don't know really the detail of the case. And that's very important that this be brought to their attention.
Exactly. And so, Brother Mohammed, I'd like to end off by asking, how can Canadians themselves contribute to this cause?
We asked actually Canadian if they would like to support, which is actually, it's a human cause. And we hope that the best thing to do is to contact the Minister of Public Safety Office and to explain to them that they have to take an action to protect those people's life, that if being deported or being really confirmed inadmissibility to Canada and removed from Canadian soil, that will be a very harm to them, to their family, to their children. And at the same time, it is standing with Islamophobic practice, which is we all need to fight, as all form of discrimination need to be stopped. So I think Canadian can call the Minister of Public Office, Minister of Safety Office, and their MPs, local MPs as well.
Well, thank you so much, Brother Mohammed, for joining us today and telling us all about this cause. It was a pleasure to have you on our show.
Thank you, and thank you for the listener, and hope this case and other be solved in a good manner for the well-being of the people and the families.
Mm-hmm. You are watching Canadian Muslim News on Muslim Network TV. That's it from our Toronto studios tonight. Make sure to like, share, and subscribe to our channel for more Canadian Muslim content. Stay safe, and until next time.